Meet Grammarly Go.
Happy Monday, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to our classroom and our learning community. For those of you who do not already know me, my name is Shiona Somerville. I'm Associate Director of Executive Education at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. It is my true pleasure to welcome you all here today. I see some familiar faces, those of whom are completing our Advanced Management Development Program or soon to enter that program, as well as many of you who have taken many of our executive education programs. Today, I'm delighted to introduce Carmine Gallo and Vanessa Gallo. Designing an effective leadership path has never been more crucial or complicated. The pandemic upended so many traditional business processes that it is absolutely critical to have an effective pathway forward. And here to guide us through that pathway and that journey, we couldn't have better instructors than Carmine and Vanessa. Carmine spent the early part of his career in television and news broadcasting, sharpening his storytelling skills at CNN and CBS. He's written many books on leadership and communication, including international bestsellers, like his Talk Like TED is a perennial bestseller, and he has a huge readership for his articles in Forbes, Inc. magazine, and the Business Insider. Carmine interviewed CEOs and notable leaders for his recently published The Bezos Blueprint, about which you'll learn a little bit today. And he narrates the audio version and tells me that his book is now translated into Russian and Polish, if I have that correctly, Carmine, and soon to be multiple other languages. Carmine Gallo is an effective executive education communication coach who works one-on-one with CEOs and senior leaders at some of the world's most admired brands, including Amazon Web Services, Walmart, Coca-Cola, and others. Vanessa has a master's degree in development psychology and is an expert in message development and vocal delivery. Together, Carmine and Vanessa are poised to sharpen and polish your persuasive powers and your leadership skills. Just one note, Vanessa is joining us beginning on Wednesday. So today, the floor is fully Carmine's. And Carmine, with that, let's get started. Over to you. Oh, you're muted, Carmine. Carmine, you're muted. Are you hearing me?
Okay, we can read lips.
I am here. I am
there
here.
You are.
Yes. As Shiona said, I too see some familiar faces. Me and Vanessa co-hosted, co-led a class on campus that we've done for several years called Presenting with Confidence. This is a much more advanced communication and leadership course webinar, but I do see some faces of those classes as well. So for those of you who have joined me in other classes, all of this is going to be new. If I do talk about someone who I've talked about in the past, it'll be for a different example. But the reason why I profile certain people is because they are well known and considered to be excellent communicators. But thank you. This is going to be a terrific and I hope fun and valuable 4-part session. This is session 1 of Designing Your Leadership Path, and we are going to be focused on tools and techniques to what I call future-proof your career and significantly boost your influence. I'd like you to reimagine the way you write, speak, present your ideas, and lead. This is an advanced communication course for leaders and aspiring leaders. Before we dive in, I know Shiona has some other housekeeping things to do. So Shiona, back to you, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Just a heads up that in a moment, we're going to invite all of you to introduce yourselves. But before we do that, I just want to give you a couple logistical announcements up front for those of you who are not familiar with our choreography. First and foremost, I am joined today by my colleagues, Chris Reichley and Kathleen Anderson, who are all of us supporting this program. Please keep your video on if you can throughout the course. This is not a webinar style, and we really invite everyone to come on camera. It is interactive. So if you can, please do come on camera for the duration of the program. Please stay muted. We'll invite you to unmute or raise your hand. I'll be moderating. I'll be looking for your contributions in chat and raised hands in your participant box. Carmine's slides will be shared at the end of today's program and every segment of the program on the course website. All resources are on the course website, and I'll repost that link and password again. So there's no need for you to take copious notes. We really want you to listen and engage in the content and with each other today. Carmine is also going to stay on for 15 informal moments after the formal close today and other segments of the program. So if you can stay on, we have a short open mic opportunity at the close of today. And for those of you who complete the course fully and are fully interactive and available, you will receive a digital certificate that recognizes your contributions in this course. Last but not least, in the rare instance that we have a contingency, if we lose all of you, please rejoin. If you lose us, please rejoin at the same link. And if we lose all of you, please hold on for a few moments, and we will send an email with next steps, and we will make every effort to rejoin during the normal class hours. Without further ado, then, as I promised, we're going to ask each of you to very briefly, in 30 seconds, introduce yourselves to each other. This is an important part of our program. We really want you to feel comfortable engaging with each other. So we'd like to know your name, your business title, and where in the world you are joining us from today. I'm going to, in reverse chronological order, invite you to unmute and give a 30-second introduction. So without further ado, I'd like to hear from Sarah White and Karishma.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah. I'm the Director of Demand Generation for a SaaS company based very closely outside of Toronto.
Thank you.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Karishma Thacker, and I'm a project manager with one of Blackstone's portfolio companies called LiveCore, and I am based in Chicago.
Terrific. Rob and Julie.
Hello, everybody. Rob Sagedin. I am the Director of Integrated Baseball Performance with the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm based out of Clearwater, Florida.
Oh, okay, we got ourselves a sports-related category as well. I'll tell you a story later about a gentleman who I met last week who's one of the top coaches of the Carolina Panthers, and how he uses storytelling and some of the things that we're going to be talking about as a coach. So it'll be interesting to get to know you too, Rob.
Looking forward to it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Ricketts-Daniel, and I am the Vice President of Bell Real Estate Services for Bell Canada, which is Canada's largest telecommunications company. And I'm joining you from Toronto today, downtown Toronto.
Thank you, Julie. David, Christopher.
Christopher Millen, based in Europe, also doing the broader AMDP program through Harvard, and I run a small private equity firm in real estate.
Thank you, Christopher. David, can you hear us? I see your name.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect.
So yeah, my name is David Redmond. I'm a research project manager, and I'm located in Wyoming.
Thank you, David. Victoria and then Ed.
Hello, I'm Victoria Myers. I'm an architect. I was a design founder of the firm HMA. My partner's retiring, so now I'm starting a new firm, VMA Studio, and looking forward to the course.
And excellent.
I'm Ed Bedell. I'm also in the AMDP program. I am a CFO of a real estate development company based out of Milwaukee.
Thank you, Ed. Molly and Mikkel.
Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Johnson. I am a stabilization advisor with the Department of State's Bureau for Conflict and Stabilization Operations, so coming in from the public sector, and I'm based in Washington, D.C.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael Fogelmann and I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm AMDP class 21. I'm an executive director in real estate for a pension fund in Denmark.
Thank you, Michael. Now Michelle and then Ray.
Hey everyone, Michelle Dome from Utah. I am part of the AMDP program as well. And I am a real estate broker and developer. I cover about 6 different markets. So really excited to be joining everyone today. Thanks.
Okay, welcome, Michelle.
And Ray DeLuca. I'm a real estate developer in the U.S. Philadelphia area, part of AMDP 21. So I see a few of my teammates on here, and excited for the class and to work with Carmine again.
Great. Good to see you, Ray.
Terrific. Sagarika and then Sultan.
Hi everyone, I'm Sagrika, but I also go by Swag, so you're welcome to call me that. I'm currently an epidemiology fellow at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, so also in the public sector, and I'm also a program manager and career coach for Mission Collaborative, a company based out of DC and Austin. And currently I'm based in Silver Spring, Maryland, splitting my time with Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow. You're with the did I see CDC? Is that an active work? You're actively working with the organization? Yes. Yeah, a lot of communication things that we've learned over the last few years, especially, they come from the research that stems from healthcare, health announcements, because as you can imagine, that is a massive and difficult category in which to do persuasion. So I see a lot of research reports coming from people studying communication in healthcare. So it'll be very interesting for you. Okay, thanks, Swag.
Hello, everyone. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Sultan Al-Quraisi from Saudi Arabia. I'm the Vice President for County Planning and Operation and Chief Operating Officer acting, working for Royal Commission for Al-Ula. It is a public domain, semi-government, local government in Al-Ula, managing Al-Ula County.
Thank you. And last but by no means least, Mohammed and then Sarah Al-Faiz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Al-Khamis. My colleague in the organization, we just met himself, which is Sultan. We work in the same entity. I am leading, I am VP for Human Capital in the Royal Commission of Al-Ula. For anyone who doesn't know where is Royal Commission of Al-Ula, just next to Neom. It's also the north west side of the Saudi Arabia. As my colleague said, we are partially working on the government domain, and we are supporting the community in so many factors, whether social engagement or developing the whole municipality services, up to tourism, promoting the place.
There was one more, right?
Sarah, yes.
Hi. Sarah Al-Faiz, that's my name, and I'm the brand manager
currently working at Roshan Real Estate, part of PIF, Public Investment Fund Company. So nice to meet you all and looking forward.
Thank you very much, all. Carmine, that is our full class. Over to you.
Okay, that's excellent. And I will begin sharing a PowerPoint, but as Shiona mentioned, the slides will be available for you when we are finished. But these mostly are slides that are placeholders for video, for images, as I'm explaining. That's why we did send you a workbook, which I printed in black and white. Some of you may just be pulling it up on your computers or you printed it. Just to confirm, and if you're not exactly sure where it is it is on your student website. But if you haven't pulled that up or if you have a question, just chat Shiona or text Shiona in the chat. But let's follow along in the workbook because it gives you a space not only to write, but also to learn more information and to get more information that I may not have on the slides. Vanessa will be joining me on the second session, which is on Wednesday. Vanessa and I co-teach 2 different courses at Harvard, some virtual, some in person. We've been doing that. I think we're approaching an anniversary. It must be 5 years at this point. So we're always very happy to do it. Vanessa has a psychology background. So she works with our senior clients and executives on everything related to messaging, becoming more assertive, sounding more confident. And all of that really is important when it comes to leadership. I noticed that all of you have leadership titles. We don't have too many sales titles, but sales is something that all of you are doing. We're constantly selling or persuading, trying to influence people to take action on our ideas. That is, by definition, the definition of a leader. A leader needs followers. Otherwise, you're not a leader. So by definition, how do we engage our followers regardless of the field that we might be in? Some of the content that you're going to hear over the next few sessions is from my latest book, which is The Bezos Blueprint. It took about 3 years of research to work on this book about Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and how he went about not only leading teams, but pioneering communication strategies and tactics that were very unique and unusual for that time. Some of these tactics people have already adopted in many, many companies and even in Amazon's e-commerce competitors. So it's been a very interesting book for me, did a lot of research, but when I bring it up, please understand it's not just about Jeff Bezos and Amazon, but there are a lot of other great communicators who do something similar. Amazon and Bezos was a hook, as some of you content creators probably understand. You gotta have a hook, but he does do it very, very well in a lot of different areas. But I think one of the reasons why I eventually decided, yeah, Jeff Bezos, even though he's not the kind of big public performer like Steve Jobs was, why Bezos? Then I saw something that Walter Isaacson had written, the great biographer Walter Isaacson. And he said, I'm often asked who of the people living today I would consider to be in the same league as those I've written about. Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, Ada Lovelace and the sciences. He said all were very smart, but that's not what made them special. What counts is being creative and imaginative. That's what makes someone a true innovator, and that's why my answer is Jeff Bezos. Now, this brings up a point. I bring up that this particular quote for a reason. Creative and imaginative. In order for you to go to the next level of your leadership career, from where you are now to where you imagine yourself to be, it is going to take creativity, imagination. This is not easy. This is hard work. That's why this is an advanced communication leadership class. So I need you to put on your creative hats, put on your thinking hats, and let's work together to get you where you need to be. Jeff Bezos did have a metaphor that has become quite popular at Amazon and is still used today. But I think it's a metaphor that speaks to why we're here. As the first day of a job, the first day of a startup, where you're constantly hungry for learning, constantly striving for more. It's a growth mindset. And I already know, those of you who I haven't met yet, I already know you. I know that you have a growth mindset. You're a growth mindset kind of person. Otherwise, you would not have signed up for such a course. So you are constantly learning, constantly striving to improve. In later years, Jeff Bezos was asked, what does day 2 look like? Good question. What does day 2 look like? And he said, stasis, a period of stagnation, which leads to irrelevance and an excruciating, painful decline, which none of us want to experience, especially in our jobs. Ann Hyatt worked side by side with Jeff Bezos for a number of years, literally 2 feet apart when they were a company of 10 people. And Ann said, the greatest gift in my life has been sitting next to the smartest CEOs in the world and learning how they think, act, and motivate. Well, here's something that she took away from Jeff Bezos related to this day 1 mindset. Let's listen to what Ann Hyatt's recollection was.
I mentioned in the book he has a principle called day 1. In fact, the new Amazon headquarters today, the headquarter building, is called day 1 because he wants to constantly remind his team that we're not going to rest on our laurels. We're going to constantly challenge ourselves. We're going to disrupt ourselves. We're going to get constantly outside of our comfort zones, because so many companies we've seen, once they become dominant, they become passive. And that's when you're primed for disruption. And that is the dreaded day 2. And so I think this relentless pursuit of the next. In fact, a little known fact is if you go to relentless.com, it redirects to Amazon. Jeff bought that way back in the early days because he wanted that to be the foundation upon which his leadership style and the culture of Amazon would be based, that relentless pursuit of that next level. Always surprise and delight, always do more than expected. Go that 10 extra steps that other humans don't.
That's why you're here. Go those 10. You are the type of people who are going to go those 10 extra steps that other people don't. And why communication? Recently, Warren Buffett, a week ago, 10 days ago at this point, had his annual Berkshire Hathaway conference, and where he said that the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. And he said that communication skills are the first area to work on if you're investing in yourself, because if you can't talk to people, you will have a real problem selling anything. And we are all in sales now. According to Dan Pink, who wrote some best-selling books like Drive and also is a top TED speaker, regardless of your title. I'm looking at your titles here that I just wrote down. There are no sales titles that I can see unless it's buried in a subtitle, but there are no sales titles. And yet every day you are spending a significant part of your day selling your ideas, convincing, persuading. Here's how Dan Pink talks about how we are all in sales now. And again, this is part of reframing the way you see yourself as a leader and a communicator. Dan, in To Sell is Human, you have a wonderful quote that I think summarizes so much of what I think, and I've used the quote quite often. Like it or not, we're all in sales now. Mm-hmm. Can you explain? What did you mean by that?
You know what I mean is something very simple, that if you look at the ground truth of how people spend their time at work, a huge portion of it is selling. Maybe not selling a product or service, but persuading, influencing, convincing, cajoling. And we did a really interesting study on this that showed people are spending around 40% of their time on the job doing this thing that's kind of sort of like selling. And if you just think about that, 40% of your time, 40% of an hour, 24 minutes. 24 minutes of every hour of every day of every week of every year. And it's become fundamental to our ability as individuals, as leaders, as entrepreneurs to succeed.
What about those people who say, I'm a teacher, I'm a manager, I'm a project lead, I'm not in sales?
I would say to them, as gently and generously as possible, you're wrong.
I had to end on that. You are wrong. We'll listen to Dan Pink say that. Again, think differently about your role as a leader. That's the groundwork I'm trying to set right now. Recently, McKinsey, the giant consulting firm, global consulting firm, issued a report. And they said this is the best way to future-proof your career, which is why I use that word future-proof. They surveyed 18,000 workers in 15 countries, and they arrived at the conclusion that these are some of the top skills required for leaders. Out of 18,000 people, what are those skills? This is the first time in such a survey that I saw the word storytelling. We often see public speaking, don't we? Everyone knows if you want to be a better leader, you have to learn public speaking. Okay, we all get that. But this is the first time I saw storytelling and public speaking. What does that mean? Storytelling as a leader. And if I'm delivering a PowerPoint presentation, how do I tell stories? We'll get into that in session 2. Digital literacy, obviously, I think that's common sense. You have to understand the digital environment. But look at the third skill, synthesizing messages. That's what we're going to dive in today. Taking complex messages and making them easy to understand. The reason why we have to simplify is because, as Jim Vandehei said, who is the co-founder of Axios, a very big, popular website in the U.S., he said, you are in hyper competition for people's attention. So how do we galvanize teams? How do we grab people's attention? Well, we're not going to be able to persuade them of our ideas until we grab their attention. How do you do that? We have to keep things simple. And by focusing on advanced communication skills like we're doing here, it will be a significant boost to your career. Here's what Jim Vandehei said about what we're doing today, investing in communication skills and why it's so important.
If you think about anybody at any level, at any company, you spend 50 to 70% of your day communicating, talking, writing, up, down, shareholder, customer, whatever it is. And nobody in school, nobody in the workplace actually teaches you how to do it better or more efficiently, which is insane because that's how you're spending most of your time. If you were doing anything else at work that was not productive or that could be done exponentially better, you would spend billions to fix that instantly because it would change your bottom line.
So why are we doing it? We're doing it now. That's why I credit you for joining me on these 4 sessions. I wanted to set the groundwork, get you excited about the skills that you're going to learn. Now let's dive in on page 5. Let's get very specific here. We're talking today, simplicity is the theme, making things simple. Simple, I call, is the new superpower. I really think that advanced leaders have mastered this ability to take complex ideas and simplify it so that their ideas are easy to follow, easy to understand, easy to repeat. If you have a message for someone, or you send it in an email or deliver a presentation, they can't remember or understand what you're saying, how are they going to repeat it? And remember, just just being transparent, when I say simple, I don't mean dumbing down the content. No, Carmine's not telling you to speak to a 5th grader. Of course not. You need to understand your audience. Simple as in simple to follow, concise, easy to understand, easy to repeat. And this is something that I think leaders throughout history have understood. Let me give you an example. I like world history, so I kind of go back in history every once in a while, and I see that things haven't changed that much. In 1940, during the bombing of London, Winston Churchill was growing increasingly frustrated because he was being sent memos, a barrage of memos that were very long and complicated and confusing. Sound familiar? Kind of sounds like today's emails. We're all digging out from the inbox. He didn't have emails at the time, but he probably had those stack of memos. And he wrote a response to his staff. And he said, to do our work, we all have to read a mass of papers. Nearly all of them are far too long. This wastes time, while energy has to be spent in looking for the essential points. And then he said the brevity, the discipline of setting out real points concisely will prove an aid to clear thinking. This memo, by the way, you probably can't see it. It's in the background. The title is Brevity, keeping it simple and short. And then, of course, Winston Churchill, being the fabulous writer and poet that he was, said this, one of my favorite quotes: short words are best, and old words, when short, are best of all. Okay, so he was making a point that is still relevant today. When you are speaking about a complex topic, use short, simple words to get your point across. Short, simple words to talk about complex topics. That's a little trick that Jeff Bezos and a lot of senior or influential CEOs and startup entrepreneurs tend to do. We'll dive into that in just a moment. But it's always important. Simplicity, yes. Keep it simple, keep it concise. I'm going to give you specific tools on how to do that. But I'm going to assume you know your audience. You have to know your audience better than I do. But that is important as well. You can speak to them with acronyms and jargon if it's a shortcut to understanding. But the minute you go beyond that particular person who understands your language, then you have to change your language to make it simpler. Let me give you one trick, one great idea. This comes from Warren Buffett, who recently was asked, how do you write these incredible shareholder letters? He's been writing shareholder letters for 60 years, and they are must-reads in the business community. And he said something really interesting. He said he starts the shareholder letter by writing to his sisters, Dear Bertie and Doris. He does not write, Dear shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway. He writes to his sisters because that's who he's trying to picture. When writing my Berkshire Hathaway annual report, I pretend I'm talking to my sisters. I have no trouble picturing them. Though they are highly intelligent, they are not experts in accounting or finance. They understand plain English, but jargon may puzzle them. My goal is simply to give them the information I wish them to supply me if our positions were reversed. To succeed, he said, I don't need to be Shakespeare. I must, though, have a sincere desire to inform. I love this encapsulation. We're not trying to be Shakespeare here. We're not Hemingway. That's okay. We don't have to be in order to be very effective business communicators. And that's why simplicity often is even easier than you think. Simplicity could just be less words, fewer words. Think carefully about every word that you use. Less really is more. This is Earthrise, which many of you recognize, one of the most famous photographs ever taken. And it was the first photo taken of Earth by astronauts who were orbiting the moon. Very awe-inspiring. I think you'd all agree that's an inspiring image. This is not. Someone tell me, why is this a bad slide? What's wrong with it? It's got the same picture. Why is it a bad slide?
Mohammed.
And hey.
Well, the way I see it, thank you so much. It was a wonderful introduction. Very inspiring, to be honest. Well, the way I see it, it has too much text. So actually it derived the beauty from the picture.
That's right. Exactly. So artists will tell you this. You probably know this. Photographers will tell you this, but those are people in the arts. They understand that less is more, that minimalism will help highlight that thing that you want to focus on. But why is it then? And I'm still trying to figure this out. I don't always have answers to everything. I'm learning something new every day. Why is it we all instinctively know this, but when it comes time to creating our like PowerPoint or presentation slides, we do this? We tend to have to we feel like we have to put more information on the slide to show how much we know. So it takes a little courage. Remember I said we have to reframe the way we see ourselves? It takes a little courage to just select the information that you want your audience to know based on knowing your audience. Based on knowing your audience. So good presentations, I've said this before and you'll hear me say this again, good presentations, good communication is an act of selection, not compression. It's selecting what I want you to know, not taking everything I know and putting it on one slide. Simplicity. Indra Nooyi is the former
Carmine,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
I just want to reflect in case you're not seeing it, that you're getting full agreement from Victoria, both Sarah's and Michelle. Everyone has said too cluttered, distracting, and Michelle makes the point that, you know, there's a very key main image, and everything else is a detraction from that.
I love it. Okay,
Thank you all.
good. Yeah, thanks for supporting that. Indra Nooyi is the former CEO of PepsiCo. And she says communication is absolutely fundamental for any leadership. But what exactly about communication? She said a foundational skill while she was moving up the ranks at PepsiCo was my ability to simplify complex problems and communicate them effectively. Interesting. See, so she wasn't just saying, be a better public speaker. We hear that all the time. You need to improve your public speaking. You need to be a better communicator. What does that mean? That's what I like to do, is dig down, put the pieces of the puzzle together, try to figure it out. So when I read this quote, it was a revelation. Her ability to simplify complex problems and communicate them. Recently, Indra Nooyi posted a masterclass where she talked about leadership, entrepreneurship. She had a portion in there on communication. And it's interesting that out of an entire masterclass, the one portion on communication was simplicity. Listen to what she had to say.
So think hard about what you really need. But there's another way to do it. If you want to talk about the company to a third party, what would you say? I would say the mission of PepsiCo is to produce and distribute world's best convenient foods and beverages, okay? Keeping with the spirit of performance and purpose. And people would ask, what do you mean by convenient foods and beverages? The way we would say it is, our products with a rip, twist, flip, or tear, you could go from bag or bottle to the mouth within seconds. That was convenience. So it was simple. People understood it. Visually, they could get a sense for rip, twist, flip, or tear. But the only way you can do it is if you simplify the message. That's what we did. That's why simplifying the complex is one of the most critical communications tools that you could ever have. Because that goes a long ways in getting people hooked on a message. If you gave them a simple message and touched their heart, that's better than a complex message that touches their head, but they don't know what the hell it means.
Really? Again, really interesting. People at this level, the top levels in leadership, don't have a fear. They have the courage to say, keep things simple. You're making it too complicated. Too many words. Words that people don't understand. Think about your audience and simplify. But again, how? I'm trying to help you understand how to do it. I don't think it's enough to say, keep it simple. Do you remember that? Everyone always says, keep it simple. Okay. I'm not sure if the clients who I've worked with over the last 20 years, they still don't quite understand. Well, help me, give me some tools. The most important thing is to think about the words you use and to use them intentionally. Think about our audience first, then we are going to select the message that they need to hear and nothing more. Let's turn to page 6. I want to give you an example, then we're going to do an activity. A simple way of making things simple is keeping it concise, removing unnecessary words. So I was looking at the Jeff Bezos shareholder letters. He wrote more than 20 letters from 1997 to about 2020 that, like the Buffett letters, are considered must-reads in many industries. I come from Silicon Valley, so a lot of Silicon Valley high-tech companies read the Bezos letters. In fact, Mark Randolph, who's the co-founder of Netflix, who endorsed one of the people who endorsed my book, he's the one who kind of turned me on to the letters, among other people. But he said, Carmine, if you're going to write a book on Bezos, make sure you dive into the letters, because I reread some of those letters every year because they're that good. But again, what makes them good? One of the things that makes them good is that he doesn't write too much. He just writes what you need to know. So, for example, on page 6, on the right side of the table, there's 2 tables. On the right side is what Bezos actually wrote. And you will see that the writing is clear and concise and simple, short sentences. On the left side is an exaggeration. It's what most people would say to get to the point. But Jeff Bezos gets to the point immediately. I want to take a look at the bottom one. Again, I printed these out. Look at the bottom one. This is from 2015. Look at the right-hand side. It's on the slide here. This year, Amazon became the fastest company ever to reach 100 billion in annual sales. Well, that's pretty simple to understand. Amazon became fastest company ever to reach 100 billion in annual sales. But that takes editing, because it probably didn't start out that way. Take a look at the left side of the screen. This is what I think most people would do. They would just add a lot of words. But try to listen as I talk through this. And you'll notice that by adding excessive words that are unnecessary, it loses its punch, it loses its power. What if I were to start a presentation like this? Before I review the year and get into the details, I guess I should mention a great thing happened this year. Amazon reached 100 billion in annual sales. You know what's really impressive about that accomplishment is we reached that number at a faster pace than any other company has been able to achieve. So the critical words are lost in that description. It's not as assertive, not as confident. And here's another thing I noticed. If you add too many words, can't fit on a slide very well. I have to condense the font into like 12-point font. If you keep just the required number of words, it's easier to put the text on a screen. So that's another exercise that you can do. If your key message does not fit on a slide, or at least fit on a slide on a 100-point font, then maybe it's too much. Condense, edit. You have to be a good editor. This is a 100-point font. Fits perfectly. That's not. It's too wordy. Let's try this ourselves. We are going to begin an activity. And this is on page 7. We are going to do a breakout. So you're going to be placed with a few of your peers in the class for about 10 minutes. And on page 7 is the activity. So I want you to look at this activity and then we'll talk about it. But it's real simple. In the breakout room, which you will be placed in just a moment, rewrite this paragraph. There's a paragraph here. Rewrite the paragraph so that it is less wordy and concise. Can you get it under 35 words? Can you cut like 2/3 of this? That would be about 2/3. Can you cut it down that much? You don't need to understand. This is an actual presentation from an executive, a top executive who Vanessa and I worked with recently. And He was trying to influence. This is important. He was influencing the boss of a very large company to take a particular strategic action that he was recommending. So this is going to boost his influence. This is the way he started in practice, what you see here. Well, kind of long, a little convoluted, a lot of unnecessary words. He's talking about 3 potential models. That's all you need to know. We don't need to know exactly what the type of company was. Talking about 3 models that he wants to suggest. Okay, there's a lot of words in there. Simple activity. Let's cut down the excessive words. Just get to the heart of it. Take 10 minutes in your breakout rooms. Identify a volunteer from your breakout room, one person to come back and report back on what they found. Let's take 10 minutes and then we'll come back.
Great. So all of you, before we unceremoniously place you in your breakouts, we'll do that automatically. There's no need for you to do anything. You just need to join your group. We have posted in the chat a reiteration of the language and the instructions for the breakout. You may find in your breakout room that you have to reopen chat to see the wording here. But also, as Carmine has said, it is in your workbook as well. And importantly, please do nominate someone to report out your team's brief findings. We'll give each group a bit of time to report out, and we'll give you a 1-minute warning. So about 10 minutes, we'll give you a 1-minute warning when we bring you back to the main room. So without further ado, Chris is going to move you into all of your rooms. Have fun. Carmine, could you take your slides down?
Oh, sure.
Perfect.
Hold on.